sneaker, business talk. It's the Soul Material Podcast.
Just, so for our audience, again, from beginning to end, we want you to just make your journey inside of the culture, because that's what means so much. So I think that's a perfect way for us to transition into more business talk, because you're giving us some of the background, talk about a little bit specific details about the process with the sneakers and bringing those storylines to life. But, now back to you, Xavier, what inspired you to get into this field? You talked a little bit about, some of the performance aspects of your childhood and, family influences, so what inspired you to, and drive this passion to keep to not only get into this industry, but, keep climbing the ladder?
Yeah, man. Again, I think that initial thing was just family. Like, again, like my cousins a little bit older than me, they were like in high school at the time. And again, being that, the kind of annoying cousin that wanted to be cool, just trying to be around them and, get that sign off, like remembering like S. Carter's coming out or Vince Carter Shocks or all these moments as a younger kid, seeing how the older kids were interacting to it kind of initially drew me to product. And then being a little bit of, artistically inclined, being, getting in art class and stuff like that was always, a plus. And as I kind of matured, just footwear kind of became a constant. I think at one point I did this program with the Flint Urban League, and they actually had an art project. They're like, yo, you guys got to design shoes today. And I was like, what? Somebody design shoes? And from that moment on, it was like, yo, this is the mission. Like, I didn't really have a plan B. I didn't really have any other thing. It was like, I really want to make this, come to fruition. And then slowly just, small increments of success over time kind of kept snowballing into this thing. And it kind of manifested itself over a course of a decade or so. That led me to kind of get to where I got to. But again, I guess early shoes that inspired me, like Air Jordan 17 or Answer 4, Jumpman Team 2, like just stuff like that. That was like really cool to me as a young kid, or like I aspired to have, or I got T-Mac 2, stuff like that, where it was like, it made you feel a certain way. I like that feeling. And, again, my influences around me also put emphasis on footwear, and it just became something I was like, yo, I want to be a part of it. And I guess naively, I kept chasing the path, and it actually became a reality because I didn't really have anyone to show me how to do it. Again, like seeing, Dwayne Edwards or Jason Maiden on, the Jumpman 23 site was like, oh, wow. And I was like, once I got to high school, like, okay, so again, like that, another moment where it's like, okay, I'm getting a little closer towards that. Like, let me keep following this path. And eventually, during high school, start taking courses at this like trade school called the GISD Skill Center in Flint, where they had like a design program which taught you like graphics and stuff. So I would leave high school midday, go do that, get to see different art schools, get to have visibility to what a portfolio looks like, and then eventually started playing the art schools, and then learning that was super expensive, then finding out Eastern Michigan had product design, then learning about apparel and textiles, learning about garment construction. So it's like all these like little steps to things that kind of kept, pushing me towards, footwear over the course of time. But it was just kind of that initial spark of like, these shoes mean a lot more than just, foot coverings. They can provoke a sense of emotion or, make you feel a certain way. And, from a young age, I was able to kind of realize that and kind of chase that path.
Xavier, one thing that I know me and the Shark love to hear is the diversity in your taste. I heard T-Max, I heard Iverson, I heard Jordan. So that initial like foundation that you had shows the path that you had taken. And it's just great to hear that you just weren't on. Of course, it's pre-social media anyway, but it's just good to hear the diversity in the brands and the models that you liked during that time where you knew this is what you kind of wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, like to your point, like East Bay and stuff, like, man, it was awesome to see just the full like breadth of it. Like even like Dada was cool. It was like, yo, like I want to try these out. Like, why not? Like it was like, and C-Web being from Michigan too. So yeah, always just having that kind of diverse experience, but also it's like kind of being unique too. Like, I guess that's kind of went away in, current culture with kids kind of following a little bit more, and maybe social media adds to that, but it was always dope to have something nobody else had. So if you could get a Kobe, Adidas, Audi inspired shoe that someone was scared to rock or something, it kind of sets you apart. So it was always like being a little bit unique. So, I kind of always teetered in like being a little bit different, but also knowing what was up, kind of what was widely accepted by the, the group think, but like, okay, I want to do something a little different. So I don't know, I always kind of had eclectic taste, I guess I would say in general, but
again, it's well-rounded, so, and like Kevin just said, it's evolved over time. We might have more clone action going on. Everyone's going after the same stuff, and like it was more of a cool factor to differentiate, like because you didn't want to. You like the goal was to not have what everyone else had.
Exactly.
It's almost like everyone's just trying to keep up with the Joneses more than per se. You see what I did? Just being able to, really. Again, making your style, change the laces, do this, or it's not I used to call them like the mannequin fits, like when you style it and you put it in the window, that's not exactly, that's not how you're supposed to be wearing it. That's just a model just to show off what we have at that time. But the retailer, like I would go out and see, mannequin, I would call them mannequin. I was like, yo, you just got the first level. So you didn't want to like, it's like 4 pieces of collection. You want to like switch the top and the bottom or something and make it you know what I mean? So, no. So, and you talked about some of that evolution a little bit, but let's just fast forward it to more today because the consumer bit, the cycle, and the business cycle, production cycle, everything has been a little wacky with the pandemic. Supply chain has impacted so many different, all businesses globally because you might have some brands missed seasons with their retailers. So like, what are your thoughts on the consumer mindset in the post pandemic era? We're not all the way through it, but we're just that initial 2020 2021 everyone locked down, everything's the whole retail landscape, brick and mortar malls, it is not the same anymore. So what are your thoughts on the current landscape?
Yeah, I think definitely post COVID, I think they're starting to sort the supply chain issues out a little bit. See, some brands are doing better than others. I think the smaller guys kind of got impacted the most. But yeah, I think overall though the consumer kind of habits are kind of going to remain the same, and if anything, it seems like it's almost amplifying. Like I'm curious to see what this next shift is going to be, but we've kind of seen this kind of tidal wave of the social media influence, and you kind of have the Yeezy and the Travis Scott guys at the top, with Yeezy not being at Adidas anymore. Maybe it's someone else to come in and kind of move that tide. Not at Adi, but like a new person in general. Who knows who that person is? I think it's time for it, but I think the overall consumer habits will kind of go back to where they were. I think, the traditional brick and mortar or, store spaces are kind of going away. But I do feel like the younger generation has this aberration for the buy, sell, trade kind of thing. I think like a little bit before COVID, the round 2 kind of really kicked that off with their online kind of show, and it kind of spread. And I think you'll kind of see that a little bit more. And I wouldn't be shocked to see brands actually implement that themselves. Like at the end of the day, StockX is almost becoming like this thing where everyone kind of validates everything, the costing behind whatnot, and the brands are missing so much money on the secondary market. If it's a way for you to go into the actual Nike store and trade in, a pair of something that you bought for something else, or even buy a used pair, I think that could be cool because kids don't have that fresh out of the box kind of stigma that we may have had growing up.
That's a good way to put it.
But I'm not 100% sure overall. I think, again, things are recovering slowly. Again, I think the bigger brands definitely market share kind of increased because they were able to kind of, use their resources a little bit better than others that were a little bit limited. But I think the consumer is still kind of gravitating to that, the overall kind of hype mentality. But I do like the buy, sell, trade kind of mentality that the young kids are growing up with. Like I watch vlogs all the time on like the cool kicks and stuff, and like see 11-year-olds coming in there with like a white on white Air Force One and trying to flip it for a New Balance 550 or whatever they can, and they're willing to buy it used or worn, which is kind of cool too. But hype is still kind of supersedes everything at the moment. But we'll see. Maybe the bubble will burst. I mean, we just seen kind of that the whole NFT and metaverse thing kind of slow down a bit, which last year at this time that was going to be the future of everything. So maybe we'll see
some of those values have plummeted. But at the same time, like you're saying, with the retail locations, there's a lot of different consolidation going on. Just and re-strategizing. We've had full episodes just on Foot Locker strategy, and their lace up strategy and where they're going, and where they're trying to do strategic missions for sneaker culture, but then at the same time, the the makeup of the product line in the store is going to shift a little bit. But then you also have your, the urban retailers actually like putting their powers together. I come from the lineage of DTLR, Downtown Locker Room, and them, but them merging with Sneaker Villa or RU Villa for them to improve their distribution. And then you have your finish lines and your JD Sports,
JD Sports.
So and then there's acquisitions on top of those because the businesses are still booming. But I think you're on to something with the buy sell trade, because like we've questioned some of the longevity of it only because of the integrity of the inconsistency of the integrity of who's running the shops. But if it was done right, I feel like the brands would be stupid not to participate in being able to recycle your program any product, because like, is it the product or is it the lifelong consumer that you want? That's the rhetorical. I throw rhetorical questions out here, but it's something like that, right? So just as far as that, and then also like give us a snapshot too, just in the e-commerce world, because there's a lot going on physically, that was impacted with distribution and the pandemic, but there was peaks and valleys and a lot of good peaks with e-commerce as well. So can you just speak a little bit on some of those strategies, whether it's through the digital wave of influencers and specific things for specific websites and apps. It's all e-commerce. What you think about that?
Yeah, and again, this is definitely me speaking from like a fan perspective, because it's literally like on the product side more so than the actual, retail kind of sales space. But I think you've been seeing like a lot, the app developments. I know you guys are familiar with like sneakers and, probably the biggest app out there. But I think it's like brands trying to be more integrated with like the day-to-day of the consumer and providing incentives for them to get access to certain product. I think we've seen that come up quite a bit. But just in the physical like online space, I feel like the posts like retail like purchasing kind of avenues, whether it's the StockX, whether it's the GOATs, are still kind of the prominent space where people are willing to pay that secondary market price for things that they want, because they still aren't getting access to the desired product. And again, I think they're trying to find avenues to kind of fix that. But at the end of the day, it's like it's almost become a job at hand to kind of still like to enter these raffles and to sign up to put your name in the mix. So it just kind of becomes this thing where I don't know if the consumer is really bought in quite yet. But again, I would be very, very curious to see how the young kids look at it, because they're entering raffles. I forget what the number was behind that Travis Scott drop, where it was like over, what was it, like 20 million people entered to the raffle?
Like 21, 22, something like that. For how many pairs?
Exactly.
Like, you gotta be realistic sometimes.
And RT Mark, the Street Shark, was one of the ones that 1.5% that got lucky. So he
wow.
actually that
was.
That's wild. 1.5%, so it did exist.
Yeah, that is crazy. Yeah, man,
no cap.
Nuts.
It did happen.
That's pretty crazy. But yeah, man, I don't know. It's interesting. I'm curious to see if they'll start letting like the kind of algorithms or formulas for who's allowed to purchase stuff be more visible to the public. But then again, it just creates more demand for people to kind of figure out ways to manipulate the system in order to get the shoes, or eventually I'm just going to pay my $200 over retail at StockX or whatever, figure it out. So it's an interesting take on it all. But again, like even in my settings, with people who actually work on this product, they're still going to secondary markets buying stuff. So it's like interesting. Like the people at Nike aren't really hitting on sneakers like you would think. They're like, oh, I had to go to GOAT, or I had to go to StockX, or hopefully the employee store has a quick strike kind of drop of this, and hopefully we get access to it. But they're still kind of trying to figure it out too. So it's interesting, the new space.
Look, I'm glad that you said that too, because I too, as working on the corporate retail side, people just assume that I just get, and I'm like, no, like you don't understand. Like, it's actually sometimes against the rules for me to be the first one to be able to get something because it's limited stock or whatever, and it's for the consumers, not for all the insiders. So it's always this debate of like, you get into a little entitlement. Like, hold on, wait, like, but I'm me.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So no, I get it.
Yeah, people hit you like you the plug. I'm like, yo, I don't even know how to get
I'm about to plug, I'm about to connect, you know what I'm saying? I'm a leader, you know, I'm a customer first.
Exactly.
And shift it over real quick, Xavier. There's a lot of talking heads between the blogs, the websites, Instagram, everything in between. But I'm going to go ahead and put us on there right now. I think So Material, from my understanding, is the only talking heads that I know of that has even brought up diversity and belonging, inclusion, and equity,
for sure,
as far as an angle when talking about us as consumers or company, footwear, so forth. Give us your view on just diversity, equity, and inclusion on your end as far as with footwear, sneaker design, given you are part of that Dwayne Edwards tree.
Yeah, man, it's tough, man. It's not a lot of diversity. Again, I will say, when I started off at Reebok, it was definitely pretty diverse in terms of having minorities in roles of leadership, and I think that's really what really matters and really helps with retaining talent and growing and fostering people's career path. Because a lot of times we may get the opportunity to get in the door, but if you don't have someone vocally kind of ensuring that your career is going, to that path to get you where you want to get to, or even championing you kind of become lost and get a little discouraged, and people kind of find, other opportunities elsewhere. But yeah, man, I will say it is more representation than when I first got into the industry. A lot of younger people are coming into the industry, and Adidas and Nike did programs where Serena Williams design crew, where they're bringing in minorities to come in, or with Adidas doing the Seed program, where they're allowing young minorities with different backgrounds that may haven't did the traditional design route, or your marketing route, and they allow them to kind of work within the brand for a year or two, and allow them to kind of get full-time positions along the way, which is really, really awesome. And it definitely prepares them instead of kind of bringing someone in from the outside that may not be aware of the cultural shock that you may experience in a corporate setting. But we definitely have to do a better job of it. But I definitely believe it happens with empowering people that look like us in those leadership roles, that are able to establish safe havens for young people and young professionals growing up within the sneaker industry, which there isn't a whole lot. Even in Nike basketball, I believe I'm the only black designer in Nike basketball right now, for footwear, I should say, which is still pretty shocking, being that we are, make up so much amount of Nike basketball products. So definitely it's room to grow there. I will say people are more open to have these conversations now. Unfortunately, with everything happening with George Floyd and stuff, you do feel like your opinion and you can be a little bit more outspoken if you do feel a way about things. Because prior to that, it was kind of like, it is what it is. You really can't say a whole lot, but at least now I do feel a little bit more confident. My peers, I will say, feel a bit more confident with expressing themselves when they do find things that may be an issue in the workplace. But definitely we have to do a better job with getting more of us in those positions. But it starts with leadership setting that direction, because a lot of times, man, unfortunately, even if it's subconsciously, you tend to empower those who are, remind you of yourself. So if leadership is all, a certain race or, gender or whatever it may be, they're going to continue to bring those people along the way. And not saying that that's the case all the time, especially if you're successful, but usually that's the case, where it's you don't really have someone to, again, like a Dwayne Edwards or a Jason Maiden when they were at the Brim, where I could kind of have that blueprint to see, okay, I can eventually be the director of this or the head of this, because you can lay the foundation for it, and also make me aware of those traps and things that may, derail me from that progress. So we definitely need more of that. I will say, shout out to VP of Kids right now at Nike. His name's Ron Wright. He's been there for a very long time, but he's been a very, very, very influential person in my career so far within Nike in this past year. Some change. He's really, really good guy. He does a very good job of bringing the youth around him and making sure we're good. But he's one, we need more of that potentially there, and definitely with women as well, where it's not a whole lot of women leaders in those spaces as well. But across the board, the industry is needed. And I will go back to my time at Adi, which was probably the most diverse experience. We had a lot of younger other people there. But Adidas LA, they have a interesting setup there, but definitely felt the most like culturally kind of connected. I felt within the company just because everyone kind of sat at the table, super diverse. It wasn't like one or two of us. It was a good amount of people that looked like me, but also different races, different genders, different everything. So that was a good opportunity there. And hopefully we can see that reflect across the rest of the industry moving forward. But
all right. Well, we're glad we got you on the inside, because we definitely need, more positive intent to get these conversations started, because that's where it starts. The conversation, bridging these gaps. There's a lot of unconscious bias going on. That's what it sounds like. I've heard a little bit. Sometimes
100%.
people that are making those decisions, they don't realize that they're just still inside of their comfort zone and not understanding that their consumer is way more is a lot more diverse than that line of sight in that circle. So just being able to have that open mind, but yeah, just having that conversation to make sure that all the actions are intentional. Like we, at Soul Material Podcast, we are very serious about diversity, equity, inclusion. I'm a leader in public broadcasting for diversity as well. So just always making sure that we have those intentional messages, and it's just intent. Again, you talked about it from your own personal life, from the role models, and just being able to look to see that something's tangible. When other cultures have more higher frequency of things in front of them that look like them, that it loses the value of why we need certain representation. And it's not even like we'll prove ourselves when we get the opportunity. But it's just like, do we get the door open for us? And then even before that, is it for us? Sometimes you don't know if it's for us because you haven't seen it. So again, glad you're able to find people within the system as well, because that's what we also talk about, especially to our younger demographic, to make sure that you reach out, build relationships. All right. I don't know how many episodes, Kev, did we have just talking about the importance of relationships. All right. It's not just the transactional. It gets you so many different ways more in your life. So no, appreciate you, Xavier, just going into more detail on the business side, and then just some of the aspects of the business components, with as one of those business components is human resources and the people. So again, that's what makes us different over here, is that we're talking about all of the elements, and we're breaking it down, because that's a key foundation. Because if that doesn't work, then it won't translate all the way to the end game, to the consumer, or there'll be too many holes in it, right? So